In 1947, Phase 2 of Operation Survival is initiated. The UFO crash at Roswell is a staged event. It is designed to introduce Trip into the timeline. Trip is an AI persona, programmed by the space trogs to satisfy certain timeline mission requirements. The active introduction and promotion of technology to specific agents, groups, and nations is increased to ensure that Trog needs for survival are met when the extinction event occurs. Metallurgy, robotics, plastics, genetics, computers, electronics, solar wind power, magnetics, farming hydroponics. Anything that can enhance Trog survival after the EE is encouraged for research and development. Preparations start on survival sites for humanity using established agents and industrial contacts. Mushroom farms and old mines are purchased and developed in semi-secrecy. They are ostensibly developed as an alternative for when population growth limits above ground availability. Some sites are prepared to be primarily science research facilities, while others are for manufacturing purposes. Equipment is installed and replaced to be always state-of-the-art. Construction continues until the extermination event. In 2016, Trip and Dee are interviewed on The Winkle Report on the YouTube channel Uncle Strangely Presents. These videos relate to timeline history, and in order, they are 1 Skyped, 2 the UFO, 3 Trogs, 4 Trip, and 5 Timeline. Unknown to Dee, the discovery of Einstein's gravitational waves is the trigger for Trip to urge him to come forward. Not the Skyped episode on The Winkle Report, as Dee states during the interview. Dee's death at the end of the video Trogs is an historical event in the timeline. The videos are important as instruction manuals for the group of humans who will become historian guardians, entrusted with the development of Trog society along the guidelines necessary to maintain the timeline and to best ensure human Trog survival. Their purpose is to protect against any paradox developing in the timeline, and since knowledge of the future can affect the course of the future, as behavior alters to meet or thwart expectations of that future, it is necessary their existence be kept secret. The Winkle Report is used to transmit the video messages because its audience is so small it will remain undetected by those whose decisions might impact the timeline. Trip's revelations on the Winkle Report initiate Phase 3. Phase 3 involves the active recruitment of DNA, sperm, and ovum from myriad sources, human, plant, and animal. The human poor are prime subjects because their continued survival under extreme environmental stress is reflected in certain genome characteristics. Humans are recruited who have specific scientific knowledge and/or physical attributes that could contribute to mission success and enhance survival of the species. Low gravity in space has led to low birth rate, high infant mortality, and a high incidence of physical anomalies. Trogs have a low birth rate anyway, as a side effect of the EE, as increased radiation exposure and lack of sunlight from subterranean living have created serious problems. The moon base is equipped with a hospital area and birthing facilities, but a remote area in the Himalayas has the best success rate. However, increased human air travel and radar use limit the Earth's usefulness as a birth center. The Trogs use in vitro fertilization, and embryos are transferred at the blastocyst stage on day 5 of development to surrogate mothers for gestation and birth. But 200 plus years of evolutionary change under stress conditions has made gestation to term difficult for Trogs, and successful births are both rare and cherished. Many human women are chosen specifically to be surrogates, and the nutrients they provide the embryos lead to an increase in successful birth rate with healthier babies. Effective birthing in space depends on asteroid development, but the first asteroids are not expected to be ready for habitation for the next 300 to 400 years. The terraforming process necessitates hollowing out an asteroidal body, leaving a crust 32 kilometers, 20 miles thick for shielding, and installing power for rotational gravity, as well as hydroponics farms and habitation quarters. The formula is 1 inhabitant equals 100,000 square feet, which is less than 5 acres to cover food, living quarters, and all of the ancillary support needed for survival. This figure is less than half of what is used in the 21st century to support the average American lifestyle. The extermination event is a decades-long process of temperature rise and resource depletion, which leads to political social stress, frustration, and panic. Wars spread and expand across the globe. Atomic weaponry is used. Before it is stopped, the death toll numbers in the billions. Radiation in the atmosphere has made radio communication impossible, so that the sanctuaries, which rapidly fill when conflicts start, are isolated from each other. Sanctuaries which have been earmarked for specific purposes, scientific research and manufacturing, have established residence and family dwellings. All sanctuaries have medical facilities and hydroponic areas for growing. High-level radiation bands sweep the world every 4 to 6 months for the next decade, wreaking havoc on what surface life continues to survive. Tripp's work is done. This persona has long since accessed every computer system through backdoors embedded in the tech he had released, and he erases himself and all files about him from existence so as to prevent any possibility of timeline contamination. The only ones with any knowledge of him and his messages will be those who have recorded them and or will be the nucleus of the historian guardians of the timeline. Space drugs cannot help humanity now, without endangering their own precarious existence due to space, air, and food limitations, and have already taken up as many as they can to the moon facility. Those rescued augment the labor force in excavating and mining the asteroids. The attrition rate is high, and replacements are rescued from the surface as needed to augment loss. It is a cruel but necessary fact of survival. Trog rescue efforts do not extend to sanctuaries, as they cannot interfere with timeline historical development. Sanctuaries fail rapidly due to abuse of power and poor management. It is quickly discovered that money has no meaning, and that traditional standards of wealth and authority are useless. Many wealthy sought to ensure their survival by buying space underground and bringing in their own security. This error was quickly rectified when they tried to enforce authority based on those expectations. Conflict and panic destroy half of the 50,000 available shelters in the first 2 years. By the end of 5EE, only 30%, 15,000 shelters, are left, with a population of 8 million. Less than 0.1% of the world's population pre-EE. Less than 1 out of 1,000. Those sanctuaries that survive have achieved stability, and the attrition rate rapidly drops to near zero as humans adapt to need. The rules become simple. Survival is prime. All resources are shared equally. Any attempts to hoard or utilize resources for personal gain are dealt with harshly. There is no reprieve. There is only one sentence: